towards where we left the party the last time?
I really don't know now.
We were returning from the party. Is that where we were at? And we had about a day after the party to kind of recoup and recover.
That's right. We talked about it last time, then didn't actually do anything.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that is the general thing of it. So, nothing actually happened the last time that we logged in. So, as I recall, you guys had successfully retrieved Larch from the guard tower over somewhere over here in western Mulmaster, and you saved him from the cult of Talos, who was trying to sacrifice him to their god. And you managed to find, well, not only you defeated all of the guards there from Benessy's family. And then when the cult leader, whose name escapes me at the moment, he ended up dying and dispatching his horde to fight you all, the birds and the hippogriffs and the air elemental. So at the end of that, you guys you found this backpack-like device that was strapped to the back of Proskler, who was the acolyte of Talos. And you ended up bringing that back with you, and you returned Larch back to his household, where the family thanked you for your time, and his paladin trainer, Elise, thanked you for everything that you had done. And at that point, the party had started to conclude, and you guys had made your way back to your headquarters over at Bloodbath and Beyond. At this point, as you were heading back to the headquarters, this is when Eldon was confronted alone in a dark alley by two people to basically shake him down for some gold for breaking the Edict of Arcane Banishment, or I think that's what the edict is called. To which Eldon paid a lesser amount than they demanded, and then they ran off. And I believe that is where we left the party. So we will assume that it is the next day. You guys have had the benefit of a long rest, and y'all are you have like a day's worth of downtime to contend with or deal with before we move on. And we talked about this via email a little bit. So let's start with I think Eldon.
Hi. Yeah, I guess what I was saying is that these guys that shook me down, they looked a little bit ragged, little like this is how they make their living, by kind of running around and shaking people down, and because there's not much else maybe for them to do. Would I need to do like a check to, like a insight or something check to know more about like how they carried themselves, as if they were really as I thought, or
well, yeah, I like that idea, and let me pull this up, because you did get a description of them, or based on how you felt at the time. This is what I sent you is what I felt like Eldon would remember. If you want to run an insight check, I am good with that. All right. I did not specify. I was going to say probably at a disadvantage, but we're going to go with this anyway. All right, so you would have, gotten the feeling, and I will say at this point, you have not described the people to your party. So let me say that Eldon would have thought one of the gentlemen seemed like he would have been kind of a aloof, a kind of a happy person, more of like a lovable idiot. Kind of think about the George character from Of Mice and Men. That's kind of how you felt about him. Seemed like he was really excited, but just kind of following along, kind of like a dumb galoof. The other guy, a little more cool, calm, and collected, trying to make some quips, a little nervous. When I say calm and collected, it's like he knew what he was doing, but still at the fact that, was at this party trying to keep things going a little bit, like he wanted to make this happen really quick. But it was, you get the feeling that he was, definitely more, for lack of a better word, just more like innately evil. That characterization was exuding from the other gentleman.
Okay. Falchion's a type of weapon, right?
It's a sword.
Yeah, it's like a curved sword.
All right.
So would Eldon, when the morning came up, would Eldon share what he perceived, what he saw with this?
Oh, definitely. I mean, yeah, definitely would go over it with the group and say, saying this is what these guys are about, and that it seems like this is a part of how they make a living. I don't know if they answer to other people. They seemed a little nervous here and there, but just kind of, not sure they're worth going after to, over just the gold, but they may be people who have information about the underworkings and things like that are going on in the city. If we want to go hunt them down for information, kind of create a situation where we have a little bit of a stronger hand, against people who may be looking to extort, that kind of thing.
So, yeah, I mean, getting the idea of, people seeing, and what we learned, people who had broken this edict, people would be on the lookout for it. And if you couldn't prove that you're part of the cloaks that are allowed to demonstrate and perform magic and the arcane arts within the city limits, you get the feeling, again, since Mulmaster is an inherently evil place, that this is just kind of wouldn't call it a cottage industry of the townsfolk, but it's, you come to notice that it's not uncommon for people to roll over other people to try to get money from, extort money from people to prevent them from being turned over to the City Watch or even to the Blades and above. The soldiery as well. That's the other one I was looking for.
Well, Corrin's very much in favor of hunting these people down and getting our money back. What little it was.
And I believe it ended up being right at 30 gold.
And I am holding an IOU to Corrin, so
it's more about the principle.
Well, and I guess as I'm saying, is like, I think, whether it's for the gold or whether it's for information, I think there's a lot of information to be had about what's going on in this city, and we may be able to find out quite a bit if find good contacts. I mean, I know we were looking for contacts before. I'm not sure I can't remember exactly what information we've uncovered though in that way.
We saw this sort of as more like South American kidnapping, where it's like everybody knows it happens. It's not really as bad. Like you get scooped up. Someone's going to pay the $500 they're asking for. Everybody moves on. It's just sort of more accepted, I guess, here than Like, where kidnapping in the U.S. is much more of a bad thing. It's sort of a commodity there.
We're the place where everyone knows to bring a burner wallet.
I think that might be a good way of looking at it. I mean, y'all have been in this city for, only a couple of weeks, at this point, maybe not even 2 months, I would say. So, I mean, you're still kind of getting the lay of the land, but I like the way that Ash put it, and burner wallets, that's probably not a terrible idea until you're either more well known or have, just know more about how to react within the city.
That's not to say we can't, go follow them. I just think there's probably a lot less malice behind it than you might assume, but, would happen in a normal city.
Right. Which is, I guess that's the reason I'm taking the tact of this. These are guys that are probably, possibly more valuable for the kind of information we can get from them than for trying to hunt them down and to get. I understand the principle. But
well, they're sloppy. It's just they put an effort to it. Daylight robbery. Come on, man.
Well, no,
have some finesse.
Well, this was more towards the end of the party. This wasn't, in the daylight.
Well, it was public. It was just they took him aside and had one of us seen them, they would have been dead. There's no flair there. There's no skill.
I think it's just because it's not that big a deal. They're just like, oh, hey, we see you using magic. That's going to cost you. You got to pay the toll.
I know. I'm not saying had one of us seen them, got the rest of us, they would have been dead. That's
right.
I'm insulted to be robbed in such a terrible manner.
A brazen way.
Yes,
classless
way.
Which is part of also again, like we go if we hunt them down, and we get something out of them, whether it be gold back or information. I think there's a value to it. I'm not going to rule out though that they could be just as valuable to us just by finding them, if we want to spend the time finding them at this point in time.
Siona, what do you think?
Because I can.
She's getting pizza.
Oh, she's getting the pizza. Of course, that would be the time I pick. All right. Well, then let's see what Raz has to say about it.
I don't know. I'm not willing to be. I'm not willing to escalate yet. If someone saw us do magic, that might be bad. This might be worth the one-time loss just for experience, like getting screwed out of a mattress on Craigslist or something. Like, well, we learned our lesson. Maybe we bring a throwaway wallet or pouch, gold pouch, whatever, and just tread carefully in the future. But if we see them again, and God forbid they try and do it again, the same people, then we put them in their place right then and there.
All right. And I would say that Eldon probably correctly inferred that the people that shook him down basically saw the opportunity and took it. I mean, it could have been far worse.
Because there's probably, I know that they say, hey, no using magic, but I don't know if we've exactly determined, if that's more of an edict or if it's something they routinely enforce. It might be one of those things where there's a lot more magic users potentially in the city, and just every time they get caught, they just have to hope the person doesn't rat them out kind of and pay the little toll, as opposed to, that it really is every single person in the kingdom will rat you out and punishable for death,
Well, it certainly is one of those, it is one of those well-known secrets, as you say. trying to look back through my notes back to when Raziel was going through Mulmaster for on his first evening in. Hang on. Because I want to say that Raz did learn a little bit about the edict in that dissertation that I sent him.
Oh yeah, let me pull up my email.
At least I think that's the case. Assuming that he did, it's one of those. That there was, it is called the Edict of Arcane Banishment. You're not exactly sure how far back, but it seems like this has been called down from the High Blade, or at least the Court of Blades, or the Blades of the city, that has taken over as a ruling in the city as a whole, as a means of protecting the nobles and the nobility. But if you ended up taking an oath towards to the cloaks, there are ways at that point that you are allowed to cast certain spells and certain levels of spells based on your ranking in the cloaks.
And I just shared what you shared with me in the Discord chat. So yeah, we're not special, no magic.
Magic for you guys and your inability to not get caught.
Correct. You can try to you can definitely try to hide it. And the ways of going about that is, if you're going to cast it as a bonus action, you can attempt a deception or sleight of hand skill check with a particular DC in order to try to hide it or conceal your casting. Now, in terms of magical items, and we have gone through this before, if you can show and prove that a magical item had done it, okay. But the physical act of casting something is really what they're trying to subdue, whether or not the logic holds or not. So, but yes, I would say that you were not special. You were unlucky enough to get caught. So.
But let's not get caught again.
All right. So, Eldon, anything else you want to do in that regards, or we're going to chalk this up as a lesson learned and move on, and if it happens again, then we'll take somebody to the mattresses.
Fair enough. All
right. So, moving on then, I know at the end of it we had talked about, and we exchanged this in email, about Bloodbath and Beyond gifting Larch with some finery, as a means of promoting the new storefront and getting your names out there. Thongrim, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I think we mentioned it, last week. I think, being ever the opportunist, Thongrim would probably want to, present at the party, present the armor to him, and, kind of embellish, the fact that had he been wearing, like us, we attribute a lot of our success, we're no different than anyone else kind of thing, but what makes us special is that we're, equipped and by Bloodbath and Beyond. So, we want to make sure he's safe going forward. So we would give him, a pretty decent set of armor and, a sword, a better quality than what he had, just to, in front of everybody, in front of the whole commerce in the town, as a promotional thing, but also, just to goodwill. And then as he goes out, you know, I don't know how many over the course of the next day from the first party, if there's other receptions or things where his return would be acknowledged or something, you know, we would try and get an emissary along with him there to, you know, meet and greet and kind of say, well, you know, if you think you guys are having trouble, you know, we could also outfit you and da-da-da, and just try to spread the word that to associate his safe return with our brand, sort of.
I mean, it sounds like a good plan to me.
So that's what we'll do. We'll try that.
All right. So I know if I asked you this earlier. So you said you were going to do like a sword of some form?
Yeah, I mean, whatever he's got, we would just give one of ours of a similar fashion. I'm assuming ours would just be a higher quality than whatever he's wearing, you know, having just around, unless he's got some, you know, family heirloom sword or something. But I'm definitely not trying to pass him down some mantelpiece, you know, that he's going to be able to, you know, it's supposed to be, all this stuff we're giving him is definitely supposed to be daily use and not ornamental.
Right. I mean, God knows y'all don't have any more copper for ornamental stuff.
Next time.
All right.
But yeah, that's I mean, it's in that kind of fashion. So I don't know what we charge. I should probably consult my chart.
Well, if we look at, you know, what things say, I'd say you're probably an investment of around 50 gold, maybe? For a short sword?
I mean, I guess so. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'm not against that. Saying the upkeep of the shop is 80, but I guess there's a little bit of profit and loss on that. So I don't know if this stuff is more or less than a weekly upkeep of a shop, but I can swallow that if that's about what it is. Hopefully, you would assume
Well, I mean, let's
the investment would pay off.
Yeah. So, well, let me put it like this. So, he would be looking at a short sword. I'm thinking a chain shirt and a shield, right? So, if you can routinely buy these things, a shield for 10, chain shirt for 50, and a short sword for, let's say 10. All right. So that's 50. That's 70 at retail. So your cost in that would be what, 35 gold? Or
probably so 40.
Say,
if you call it that.
Yeah, all right. So let's just say it's a 40 gold investment. All right.
And we should always cover our maintenance cost every week with the chance that we might actually get
a what?
Get a profit.
Yes. Now, I sent that one sheet out to everybody. I don't know if that link worked or not.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. All right. So I think the operating costs there, and I think most of that is kind of rolled into it, you know, with the simplicity of that roll. Ash and I were talking a little bit offline about it. If, you know, in terms of staffing the store, if you wanted to increase the staff with more skilled workers, so you can kind of trust it as adventures come up and you're not there manning the store, I think that would kind of adjust the cost of the weekly maintenance. But based at your current staffing, you're at 80 gold a week. And if you wanted to hire skilled workers, I think they run, you know, about 2 gold a day. Unskilled, about 2 silver a day. So, yeah, if you wanted to staff a little bit higher, we're saying about 2 gold a day. Let's just call it 10 gold a week for a skilled person, maybe somebody that could run the shop and run things more at a managerial level. 2 silver for an unskilled person, so, you know, 10 silver a week, you know, give or take. But we can wrap all that up in the operating costs of the shop. So we can do it that way. As for this gift to Larch, this promotional thing, I'm considering that kind of a separate thing, and I've kind of got an idea for how to deal with that. So seeing as that y'all are operating the store, is there anything that y'all want to do in that vein?
I think just making sure we've got, the best staff to maximize the opportunity and the profit. And if that's, if we have a couple bad rolls in our weekly rolls and, start losing money a couple weeks in a row, we might have to readdress. But, as long as we can, whatever cost allows us to basically have the people in place to provide the best we can to maximize, breaking into the market, I'm good with that.
Yeah, unless I roll like a nat 1, I don't think we'll suffer a loss every week.
Probably not. Now, I mean, I'm assuming at this point you're going to be, going the persuasion route of running things diplomatically with good business sense, and such, not necessarily performance or intimidation. But I'm just assuming that persuasion was the way that you guys were going to go.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that I don't know for sure, but I'm hoping the general quality of our product is good enough to not need the rest of it.
No, well, yeah, I would hope so. So given the fact that you guys have come out of this party, and, there's, relatively goodwill for it, let's go ahead and take care of the maintenance of this. So, Raziel, as the current operating manager, if you'd roll a persuasion check, but since things are going in your favor, I'm going to say do it with advantage, and we're going to add 5 to it. Well, there you go. 25 is pretty damn good. Tack on an additional 5 for making that a 30 on that skill check. That means you guys earned 4 times the maintenance cost. So we're still saying 80, right? Because I didn't hear any staffing changes.
I mean, I'm assuming the staff we have is the 2 gold a day type, I'm assuming we don't have a bunch of schlubs in there.
I'd say not necessarily, not right now. No, I mean, your rebranding effort has worked.
As long as our top, our head smith and our the people training our apprentices are the 2 gold a day, and our new manager we hire is the 2 gold a day.
No, 2 gold a day, about 10 gold a week, I'd say.
Or whatever that was, 2 gold a week. I don't remember what. As long as that we have the top level at that, we can pay the apprentices silver if we need to, but we just need to make sure that they're earning their silver. Or if I don't even know if we pay apprentices. Beck, I don't know how that works. Are they paid in skill?
You are paid in experience.
Is that how it works nowadays?
That's how it works for me.
Level 7.
Yeah. You had to get it in. All right. So we're going to say that based on this, you guys earned 4 times the operating cost. So that's 320 gold came in this week. That's a profit of 240 gold outside of the operating costs. So that's a pretty damn good deal. Now, is that something that y'all are going to roll back into the business, or are you guys going to go ahead and take your cut?
I think we can put 2 weeks back in, use the 3rd week to pay for the armor, and then split the 4th week amongst us.
That's good for me.
All right, so 4 weeks. So this was a weekly thing. So we're going to run all. We want to go ahead and roll all 4 weeks.
I don't know. Did you said 4 times, right? So we have 4 times. So we'll put 2 in reserve. The armor law cost will basically be moot, and then so we'll take whatever 1 time, so another 80, and split the 80 6 ways or whatever.
All right. Well, hang on, because that's a little bit different based on how y'all went into it. So give me just a second. So 100
or whatever the percentages are.
So as stated, it says we earned a profit equal to 4 times the maintenance cost.
Oh, I read that
So,
as sales. I'm sorry. Yes. You earn. Okay, so you've earned a profit. I got it. All right, so that would be 320 total. My bad.
and obviously we're going to use that to cover the cost for the armor. That shouldn't be any single person's expense. And
Nope.
how much is that again, Adam?
So that takes. It was 40 gold out of cost. So you're down to 280 net.
You want to just split 285 ways and keep it easy?
Well, this is what I want to bring back up. When you bought the store, Thongram ponied up half of the cost, and everybody else ponied up, split the last half across 4 of you.
Oh, well then Thongrim should probably take everything until he makes his half back.
Or he could take 140, and then everybody else splits 140 4 ways.
Which is essentially if we each get 1/8 share.
Yeah, we probably should cover the cost of running this place. Have built up a little bit of a reserve on the off chance that we're not sitting around here for a week or two at a time. The place doesn't go on hard times. But yeah, we can give everybody 10, 20, and then put the rest back into the business if that were.
All right, so we are going to need a new
Too bad.
spreadsheet. All right, so 4,000 went into it. And then you guys earned 320 minus 80 for the operating expense, minus 40 for that.
Did you depreciate your assets?
Oh, I'm not even there yet.
You guys do realize that there is a very good chance we will leave this town in the way that this shop is going, right? Persona non grata.
Aw, come on, really?
Well, the hope is that we've established the business a little separate of anything we might do so that the business would survive similar to how it has back in.
You've been personally going around being like Bloodbath and Beyond, yay. So they might associate you with the thing. So just put that out there before you invest too much money in it. We are kind of like actively working against these people.
So, what are we doing?
I'm good with my idea. Put a little money back away, pay for the armor, split the rest, or whatever.
Okay. In that case, I'm just gonna put 280 in our normal stash, and we can decide later in email.
All right. Cool. All right. So we've gotten our job simulator portion of this out of the way. Siona, is there anything that you want to do during your downtime?
I'm still trying to get caught up on what everything that's going on, so no.
All right.
I guess I'll hang out in the store sometimes, and I really don't have anything new.
All right. Well, then let us fast forward through the day. You've gone through, and it's time for the next evening of the party at the Sage Estate. This would be evening 2 of the 10-day festival. And it seems like as you enter into the estate, you notice that things seem to be a little bit different tonight than they were in the previous evening. As you walk up to the estate, you are hit with this overwhelming smell of the only way I can say, do you remember going to the mall and you had that Bavarian nut stand that was there? You have this, that kind of that sweet and smoky, nutty scent that's just kind of wafting throughout the entire environment. It's a very enticing smell, a very warm smell. And all around you, different spectacles of light and sound. You have all these street performers at various corners and various intersections of the streets around this area. You have street magicians, pulling rabbits out of hats and streamers and popping flowers out of things. Sleight of hand. You have several groups of contortionists pulling themselves in and out of barrels and boxes, and just appearing out of places that a regular humanoid body just shouldn't be able to fit into. Particularly this one gnome kind of pops out of this, like, this kind of this, not a jug of ale, but it's, this big, oversized ale mug. And it was very impressive to see how the gnome just pulled himself out of that. But you had various buskers and musicians, playing for, donations, and you had several dancers from around of different races doing tribal dances of their people. It seems to be a very artistic flair to the evening. And as the evening went on, you caught this rare sight of several steel carts being wheeled around the estate, accompanied by several low-ranking members of the cloaks. As you could warranted, you see them with their gray kind of woolen cloaks over, but they have these medallions adorned in front of them, and they seem to be casting a freezing ray at these small carts, and you determine that the vendors are handing out samples of this sweetened iced cream treat to everybody, and which is just going over like gangbusters to the lower class, and really pretty much everybody who takes a taste of this. They've never really quite seen such a thing in this area before. It does seem, as you're wandering through, that Mr. Saj is really trying to make a good impression on the populace, again, on her way of trying to make her way into the nobility. And so as you go through here, and the evening progresses, well, first let me stop and say, do you have any questions or anything come across your mind?
Just, can I get some of that ice cream?
Absolutely. Oh, what kind do you want? They have this just plain creamed flavor. Something that's very semblant of vanilla. And some
that.
You'll go with that. You don't want to try any of the other flavors. Apparently, there's a dragonberry, some sort of greenish flavor that does not seem to be flying out of the carts.
No, we're going to start with the vanilla.
All right. Well, you were the person behind the cart hands you a small, a small serving of it, and saying, akin to, you'll try this, as you'll love it, and it's something we're bringing to the city. But the inference of, remember, the first one is always free, trying to entice the masses, and you taste it. It's very good. Almost melts in your mouth.
That's what ice cream does. Well, that is delicious, and I might have to come get more later.
Well, please find us when we open up our establishment closer to the Cloaks Tower over in the northeast portion of town.
See, Thong, forget weapons. This is what you should be selling.
And figure out if it's good, we can buy out the place next to us and set up shop next to him, or encourage the guy to bring his stall. Give him free stall rent or whatever in front of our store.
You see, this is how the empire begins.
Level 20 merchant in no time.
Hey, if it's really if your character really thinks it's that good and he brings it up to me, we should reach out and see what it would take for him to set up in front of our place. Although it may just be amazing to us.
With ice cream.
Not with a bang, but with a whimper, right?
It's a good thing that they're not a democracy to begin with, so. No harm, no foul.
So, as the evening progresses, you guys make your way to one of the main halls where Thongren kind of meets eyes with Mr. Saj as she brings the attention to those in that hall as she excuse me. She's bringing to the stage the gentleman from the previous evening, Nelvin Dejun. He comes up and he wanted to publicly thank you all for what you did for his son and bringing Larch back. And goes through, and there's a round of applause as the kind of crowd kind of disperses around you, gives you a little bit of space. And an acknowledgement, pleasant surprises. You look around, there's some people kind of looking at you like, yeah, you show-offs, and others who are genuinely like, wow, who are these guys? And well, who are these people? And so you kind of look at it as the opportunity to bring forth and to mention these things to the squire, what we talked about earlier. So Thongrim or Raziel, if you would like to say a few words.
This is to Nelvin Dejun?
Well, to Nelvin Dejun as a response, as him thanking you again for saving your son and going through the trouble, in all that you did. But also kind of as we talked about this promotional opportunity earlier. So this seems like this would be an appropriate time for you to make good or start this particular plan of gifting this armor set to the squire or to Larch.
I would definitely let Thongrim take that one.
It's our pleasure to save your son. Obviously, nobody wants anyone that they love to be in a situation. We only wished he'd been better outfitted from the beginning. Hopefully, that we believe, his equipment helped fail him more than potentially his situation. He was well trained and very intelligent. I can't see how this could have happened. We humbly accept our thanks and hope that you humbly accept our gift to you. And we hope nothing like this happens again.
We thank you for this and this generous gift that you have given to our family, not just with his life, but with this fine-looking set of armor. This shield is quite exquisite in terms of its heft, and it's quite well done. And you see, that Larch eyes it up, and he's like this. His eyes really light up at this, and he looks at you and thanks you profusely for this, and promises to tell his friends and his family and his people about this opportunity. And it's not lost on the crowd of your generosity. There are people who have taken note of you, and have, at this point you would say your notoriety or your renown within the city will likely grow as a part of this action. As there are many blades in attendance, several people of the cloaks, the soldiery. At this point, people have taken notice of you, and while Thongrim and I believe Raziel have been brought out by name. The other three of you, are by acquaintance, by proximity, have also been noticed. Though, even though I would take it that at least Corrin's probably trying to take a reserved approach of it.
He's torn between that and wanting to bask in adoration, but going more towards the reserved.
Yeah. So the way I would put it is, it wouldn't go out of the ordinary if somebody from the nobility at this point might be able to address Thongrim and Raziel by name. But other people might look at the other three of you by sight and saying, "You helped save the squire. We've heard about you." Like that. By facial recognition, to those of them in the area. So, towards the end of this. And as the party's, kind of reaching into the closing hours of the evening. Let me pull that up real quick. So as the party's closing, Mr. Saj addresses everybody from the front steps of her manor, and again draws the attentions of the crowd, and thanks them for attending the second evening of her 10-day festivities, and hopes everybody enjoyed the various street performances and the sights and the different artistic works that were presented this evening, and invites everybody to come back for the next evening, which will be a constant surprise from night to night. But she ends up closing the evening with a series of fireworks and different colorful skyward explosions, and worked with the cloaks to cast some more theatrical acts of magic into the air. It's a very, very loud, bombastic spectacle of things all around the estate and throughout Mulmaster, of colors, greens and blues and red, fire explosions in the sky, met with the oohs and ahs of the crowd. So, as the evening starts winding down, you guys find yourself approached by yet another tall, middle-aged man dressed in fine silk clothing. And he is flanked by two burly dwarven bodyguards who are kind of staying close to this person. But you can see as the gentleman looks at them with a nod and kind of shakes his hand, and is like, "Please," the bodyguards, they kind of move away from this person, and in the way they kind of break out a space in the dispersing crowd, to where this gentleman can speak to you all as a group privately. He looks at you. I see that you are a group of people with a fine set of skills, and seeing what you did for Mr. Dejoun and his family, I have a particular problem that persons with your skills might be able to solve for me. But it is with much discretion, and I hate to ask, but this is something that I sense, based on what you have just done, that you would be able to do for me. Raziel, and both Corrin and Raziel would notice, and based on the way he looks, this gentleman is clearly a member of the Blades, based on his dress.
You said a member of the Blades?
Yes. So he appears to be one of the a member of the nobility.
Well, of course, it would be our esteemed honor to be of service to a member of the establishment, as known as the Blades. And how may we help you? What seems to be the trouble?
Well, forgive me, but before I continue, I very much must have your word that you will be discreet in this. I really, my family can't have this getting out. It would cause some disgrace amongst our peers, if you would. Can I count on you to be discreet with this dealing?
Of course. Perhaps we should find the most quiet place to speak as possible.
Yes. And so he leads you down a few corridors. Again, you take note of these bodyguards, these dwarven bodyguards. They're eyeing the crowd, and then they see this bar, kind of storefront that looks fairly quiet, and he leads you in towards one of the back areas. He brings several glasses and several bottles of what appears to be the bar's finest ale and wine to the table. And again, not many people there in that general area. And he's like, and pours everybody a glass of, looking and eyeing each other. Everybody's like, would you mind? And pours a glass for everybody around the table after he has uncorked the bottles in front of you, which is something that's not lost on Corin, that he unsealed the bottles directly there. Excuse me. So, allow me first to introduce myself. I am Count Stoe. I am a member of the Blades here in Mulmaster. And you all in turn introduce yourselves, or at least I assume you do. Does anybody not introduce themselves?
I do.
Okay. So after some pleasantries, he gives you the rundown, basically, that his son and his sole heir has recently fallen in with somebody that could easily tarnish their family name. And this girl, her name is something like Helga or Ilga or some trite name like that. Whatever her name is, she's some tavern wench. And the Stows just, we can't have this. I mean, it's been our hope for quite some time that our position in this city is well, our son has to make the right choices, and we've been hoping that he'll make the right choice with a suitable marriage and sire a child for the heir of our family. And this wench just won't do. And I'm afraid I probably did what any good father probably shouldn't have done, and I forbade him from ever consorting with this woman again, this child of a woman. And of course, 3 days ago, he ran out. I told him never to see her again, and well, what do you think any kid would do that's, before he gets out on his own? He strikes off, runs off, and God, the Lord's above, all I can assume is that he's run off with that draft rat of a woman. So my hope is that you will be able to track my son down. His name's Sebastian. And I've heard that he might be, so my bodyguards they've heard rumors that he might be at a tavern, that he might still be with her. But I really ask that you can bring him back to me, so hopefully I can talk some sense into him. Now, of course, knowing how things can go, well, I'd prefer that you not have to hurt him and he come back upon his own volition. But do what you need to do. Just no long-lasting injuries, if you would. Of course, if there's something, I'll vouch for you, and it's like nothing happened to you. What I would do for you in exchange for this is I do have some coin that I will offer you of 200 gold for your services, and again, to be discreet in this manner. Is this something that you would be willing to do for me?
Is that 200 gold or 200 gold each?
Well, it is 200 gold flat fee. And you notice he kind of takes not a major affront, but a little bit of an affront to this. But may I remind you that having a noble patron in the city, particularly one of the blades, this could pay good dividends to you in the future, and especially your fine establishment. Bloodbath and Beyond, was it?
Well, it's not the money. It's not the money I'm so worried about. It's that if you want us to do this without hurting him and without undue risk to ourselves, 200 gold's not a lot unless, let's say to not be able to do it in a more magical manner.
Well,
so if we had some sort of dispense to, magically subdue him so that no one was injured without us getting in trouble with the law, then 200 gold is much more reasonable.
Unfortunately, that's a little outside of my control, as I do not have major influence over the dealings with the cloaks. That is something that you will need to tend to yourselves, I'm afraid. Howsoever, I can offer you an additional 50 gold to use for, let's say, loosening or tightening of tongues, if you would.
I mean, that would definitely be useful.
If that's
I'll have to see what the rest of my party thinks, though. I don't speak for them.
Fair enough. I will give you a few moments to discuss amongst yourselves. And he slides back from the table, looks at his bodyguards, and they stride over to one of the empty booths closer to the bar, leaving you with some privacy to talk amongst yourselves.
Well, it doesn't pay much, but might put us with good regard in the with the upper class.
Now, this guy who was just talking to us, is he about my height? Like within a foot of my height?
Yeah, I'd say, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Given that my character is 5'8".
Yeah, I'd say, yeah. He's definitely human. So he's average height.
Okay, well, while they're discussing it, I'm also making a bit of effort to study him out of side glances and whatnot. see what he looks like, how he acts, things like that.
Okay. Now, as a reminder, if we compare that to what the weekly maintenance costs of the store would be at 80 gold. A fee of 200 is not terrible for a potential evening's worth of work. Just throwing that out there.
I'll do it if everyone else is up for it.
Yeah, that should be easy.
I'm not.
Should be easy. Famous last words, right? Let's go.
Well, if not, we'll have to just break some heads.
Discreetly break some heads.
If he's in a tavern, we just start a tavern fight. It's not our fault.
It's not like we've ever done that before. So, do you guys call him back over, or do y'all discuss a little bit more?
Sound like we have a quorum.
All right. So, Corin takes note and waves his, towards the Count, and waves him back over to the table. So, am I to assume that you all have come to an agreement?
Well, it appears today is your lucky day. If you have our services at your disposal.
Well, very good. So I'm willing to pay you half of your fee up front of 100 gold. And he nods back to one of his bodyguards, who pulls out a leather pouch with the coins in it. And out of his own purse, he pulls out, and the additional 50 gold to use for expenses, as we'll call them. Are there any questions?
Well, it seems to have a little bit of information that he was at some tavern in town. I don't suppose you could...
Oh, you are real buddy.
Yeah, Adam is for me too, which may be a problem on my end.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Well, Adam gets a little bit, but you got bad just all of a sudden.
I'll ask him if he has good information.
I'm going to change the server again.
And the answer is yes, there is some information.
Alright, server's been changed again.
Testing 1, 2.
I still hear you.
I still hear you.
Sounds better to me.
All right.
Sounds good.
Yes, sounds good. Sorry. So, the tavern, yes? You want to know more about that?
Yes, so you heard that Sebastian was at a tavern. I don't suppose you could, whoever told you this information, we could perhaps talk to this individual.
Well, what I can tell you is that this girl seems to serve drinks at a rather disappointing establishment down by the docks, known as the Squirrel's Nest. It's I believe my bodyguards tell me it's towards the western side of the port area there. And her name, again, I don't really know what her name is. Helga, Spelga, Scumpen, whatever it is. Some just undignified name. She's a bit older than my son. And he's just a gangly lad of 16 right now. And she's a thin... a thin, comely lady with bright red hair that's all short and spiky. I don't see what he would see in her. Unless, of course, he's just getting his rocks off. I mean, as any 16-year-old might be. But you can see, I mean, it might be beneficial if you... my son, again, he's an extremely tall lad. He can curly dark hair, and there's a small patch of gray on the right side. Unfortunately, he was, as a child, as we were putting him through some finishing schools, he was taking some equestrian lessons, and, well, the poor little bugger got kicked in the side of the head by one of the horses. Now, he's okay. There was no permanent damage. But sometimes he's made some questionable choices. But if you would, it's presently about 9 bells, and if you could bring him back to Stowe Manor, that's just a modest estate on the north side of the Sage Estate here, just a few blocks north of here. If you could bring him there by 6 bells, that would be ideal. Unfortunately, I must make my way back to the tower, the Tower of the Blades, as that is where I must stay during my tenure here. Is there anything else I can answer you before I take my parting?
Well, where do we want you to bring him to?
Back to my home manor. It's, again, just a few blocks north of the Sage Estate.
Now, if we have to maybe subdue him, do we want to walk up to the front door carrying him over our back, or should we meet you out back or something?
I see. Yes, that is a very good point. He looks back and has a whispered conversation with his bodyguards. And my servants here suggest that you bring him to the servants' quarters around the back of the establishment. It'll be a noticeable thing, and they will make sure that somebody is expecting you. If you will come to the servants' entrance and knock softly 3 times, and with the code word banana bread, they'll know that you've come.
Well, if we have to do that, and we're hoping we won't, we will have him out of sight before we knock, so we don't just stand there, and then we can resolve this with hopefully nobody seeing.
Very well, very well. To you all, lady and gentlemen, I thank you for your service, and I wish you a quick and swift success. And he takes his parting and walks out the front door of the bar.
So we have less than 24 hours is what he was getting.
Well, I don't think the guy's going to hang out in the bar forever, so if we don't catch him while he's there, we'll never find him.
Oh, wait. Is there anything we can identify on him?
Tall, gangly 16-year-old with the horse scar on his head?
The patch of gray hair where the horse had kicked him. I kind of imagine him looking like a taller version of the host, the host of the soup, talk soup back in the day, Skunk Boy. He had that patch of gray.
I'm just thinking of an item that he may have on them that we can...
No, don't you have to actually kind of know what the item is, not just a...
says describe or name an object that is familiar to you. So that was all I was doing.
No, you didn't get that any type of information from the Count, and even so, he said he hadn't seen him for the past 3 days or so.
Okay.
So, it being around 9 bells, and 6 bells would be around daybreak, assuming, a 24-hour clock, you got 9 hours or so. And I believe the one lead that you have is the squirrel's nest again, where any old sailor can go to get a nut. Those are...
Yes. We all agree it sounds like a strip club.
Is this the place where Corn went during his sort of Thieves Guild?
No. I don't go anywhere for the Thieves Guild. I just wandered the streets and acted like an idiot.
No, so would you be familiar with it as you walked around and looked around? Would any of us have bumped into this place before?
I'm not sure if you would have or not. Again, being in the docks areas, if anyone would have seen it, likely it would have been Siona as she was wandering around the Shrine of Umberly, since I know that was, around the docks areas. Whether or not she would have come across it, it would have been a dive bar over there. And I mean, you can. It's obviously not an unknown place. You could ask around and probably find it within a little while. If I recall correctly, we said that the Sage estate was somewhere in this area, right? So let's just say.
I thought it was closer to the wall. Weren't we on? Where was the wall that we fought on?
Y'all fought over here.
Okay.
So let's mark it on the map so we don't have this question again. Let's say this right here is the Sage estate in this area.
Okay.
All right, so we'll say that's the Sage estate. So that being the case, a couple blocks north in this area, that would be where the Stowe Manor would be. So the Squirrel's Nest would be somewhere over in this area. It'd probably take you less than 30 minutes to find it. With a few questions and all that stuff. So what do we say that would be? Siona's normally our master navigator, right?
I can remember. I can remember monuments and stuff.
She's really good with maps.
Okay. All right. Well, let's just say that it takes you roughly 30 minutes to get the right people to talk to you and point you in the right direction. And so you come across, you get to the docks, and you notice that the Squirrel's Nest is marked only by a salt-encrusted bundle of hay and acorns on top of a post at the top of a set of narrow stairs that lead down to a nondescript door. It's in the basement of a dockside tall house, and these stairs are just kind of molding and a little rickety. But you get to the door, and as Raziel reaches down to open the door, before he gets to it, this laughing half-orc wearing just this homespun sailor's outfit opens the door and staggers out of the place. He's just reeking of alcohol and a little bit of blood trickling from various cuts on his face. And he's got a knife protruding from his shoulder. Slow night, he grumbles, before stumbling drunkenly up the stairs and down the road. And you look in, and many of the patrons, they've settled in for just a long night of drinking. You notice that the place is about the ceiling's 10 feet high, number of sconces, flickering candles hang in the middle of the room, kind of a dim lighting throughout it. But for the most part, everybody can see clearly, including Corin. There's a strong smell of ale and wine, pipe smoke, salty water, and waterlogged wood. It's just kind of, a scent of moldy driftwood and, smoke kind of comes to mind. You hear, typical bar sounds, clinking glasses, wooden chairs scraping the floors, hushed whispering. Typical bar scene. When you walk in, you notice the barkeep at the there at the Squirrel's Nest. She's an elderly human who the patrons, you hear, as they call out for drinks and everything, you hear them call her simply as Ma. Now, this is somebody that Thongrim would have recognized from the previous, the first night at the Saj Estate party. He ended up getting into a conversation with this woman, just passing and going. This is one of the contacts that he ended up making. And as you're eyeballing the place, somebody roll me an insight check.
I'm not good at those, so.
As a group, we're doing insight?
Just somebody. All right, Siona's it is. She's the first one in with a 15, and she would, she gets the feeling, watching the people there, that the customers there at the tavern, they're not necessarily the gentleman type, or ladies by any means, but you get the feeling that they're very loyal to Ma, the way that they treat her, and the fact that they, as you guys approach the bar, there's more than a couple of side eyes thrown in your direction as you guys approach her. And so Ma comes up to you and again first looks at Siona and makes her eyes through there, seemingly uninterested, as more of a, kind of, what do you want? She kind of rasps and then kind of makes, notices Thongrim there and gives her demeanor changes. It softens just a little bit. It says, yes, Master Thongrim. You said you might show up, although I did not expect it so soon. What can I get you all to drink?
Well, from the way you talked about this place, I can hardly wait to show up.
Well, that's mighty kind of you. And I know it doesn't look like much, but it's mine. Well, ours, should I say. We call it our home away from home here. And she looks at you and says, and offers to take your drinks. Now, I'm going to stop right here, noting what time it is. Is this a point where y'all want to call it for the evening?
Probably should be before we get into a long RP session. Or a tavern fight, one of the two.
I like leaving on a cliffhanger, so I'm going to go up to the bar and say, all right, listen here, woman. No, I don't.
Here we note that Raziel has threatened Ma unprovoked.
Pull up my rapier.
Careful now before I think you're serious.
Say, do you have a coat check? That's what he was going to say. That's the next word.
That's funny. All right. So, yeah, we'll call it here. I think this is a good way, a good place to stop. So we will leave the party here, taking their drink orders at 9.5 bells. Drink orders with Ma, and we'll go from there. Any questions you all have before we wrap this up?
Could you spell out the Count's name real quick?
Yes, I will type it out to you real quick.
Thank you.
Count Stoe.
Sounds like a wannabe white rapper.
Yeah.
420 Blazing Stowe.
Yeah.